Right now in the Switch community, it seems to be the month or just time for the vending machine shooting games. If you haven't noticed, BioShock uses vending machines for you to buy resources, Borderlands uses vending machines, and now Outer Worlds also uses vending machines. Just a little trend I noticed as I played through these games, plus someone did clue me in on it when I did my stream about a week ago for Borderlands. And one of those games is what we're going to talk about today, definitely the most criticized and controversial of the three. Here is my review of The Outer Worlds for the Nintendo Switch. The story of this game is filled to the brim with science fiction. You are one of many colonists from Earth stuck on a lost ship in cryosleep and are awakened to be able to go out and try to save the other colonists. And as you go on your journey, you meet a lot of different characters and factions and start solving their problems in the process. Now, the thing I really like about The Outer Worlds is the amount of likable characters you've got, and of course the focus on choice, which Obsidian Games is pretty good at based off of their previous work with Fallout New Vegas and the Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic games. The story's also got a bit of fun and humor in it as it references tons of different sci-fi franchises. When it comes to gameplay, The Outer Worlds is a first-person shooter RPG, much like the Fallout franchise. As you go through the game, you'll be traversing large areas and fighting enemies that will constantly be giving you experience for leveling up. Now, considering that a lot of people compare this to the Fallout franchise because admittedly the gameplay does feel very similar, it's important to note that this is not a completely open world game. You've got several different planets in the system that you can explore, so instead of one giant open world map, you've got several pretty large sandboxes. And the quest system is also something I compare heavily to the old KOTOR games, as you've got good and evil choices and can pretty much go through the game playing a good or evil character. Pretty much all of the main quest lines have you deciding between factions, and they completely give you options that change for each faction and options that can benefit both. Granted, you will need to pass a lot of stat checks to be able to get those better options, but they are there if you're ready for them. Now let's talk about how you progress through the game. Like I said earlier, you don't have one giant open world map. You've got a ship that serves as a bit of a hub for you and your companions, along with several different planets that you can traverse around the system and explore separately. You also don't have access to very many of these as you start the game, and as you do different quests and missions for NPCs, you will slowly gain access to more and more of the map. And speaking of quest lines, one of the things I like that really harkens back to Fallout 3 and Fallout 4 are the fact that almost every single unique NPC you find in every town has a side quest for you to do. Pretty much every time I had a main story mission in a new area, I would be going towards that story mission. I'd end up finding at least 3 to 5 other NPCs that would either give me their own missions, join my party, or both. This really gives you a lot of stuff to do alongside the story missions, even if most of the quests are pretty fetchy for the most part. I do like the amount of lore and background story they give you for these quest lines, but it would be nice if some just kind of ended and gave you experience without constantly having to fast travel back to the quest giver over and over again. And once you're on a quest, the real fun starts when you get out into the world or into dungeons and start doing combat. You've got mostly firearms, but also melee weapons that you can attack enemies with, giving you a very Fallout-like experience. You've got a lot of different variety in what weapons you can get, from pistols and shotguns to energy weapons like plasma rifles, and the time dilation gameplay system makes fighting even more fun. This is essentially the Outer Worlds equivalent to VATS from the Fallout series, letting you temporarily slow down time, which makes your aiming a lot more precise as everything goes in slow motion. This works especially well with scoped weapons and the built-in gyro controls. I really found all of these different combat systems and the gunplay to be a lot of fun, especially once you start recruiting and taking companions with you. You can have up to 2 companions in the party at one time, and to be perfectly honest, I find the AI in the Outer Worlds to be much more reliable than the AI from Bethesda's games. And of course, being a shooter RPG, whenever you or your allies defeat enemies or you complete a quest, you get a lot of experience and can level up. This gives you points to allocate to different stats, be it efficiency in certain firearms or armor, or increasing the speech check stats like lie, persuade, medical, and science. And to add on to those speech check stats, one thing I mentioned in the stream I did a couple days ago was that I really love how the game rewards you with extra experience if you use and pass those speech checks. Now, as much as I love all of these different systems and the sheer amount of side quests and missions that you can get, I also feel like the content of the game is on the lower side. When I was getting towards the end of the game, the story stuff that was going on made me think, okay, I'm getting ready for a big thing that's going to start the second act, because they keep talking about what's going to happen after this happens. But when I got there, the game just sort of ended, and it really felt abrupt and very disappointing, especially considering the fact that there are planets on the star map from your ship that you never once go to. Now, I mean, the main quest line is still going to get a good 20 hours out of you, and you'll probably still be able to get about 25 to 30 hours out of the game if you do all of the companion and side missions. It just really felt like it was building up to something else, and it didn't. And now let's talk about presentation, which is pretty much what everybody else is talking about. As far as the graphics go, the game's resolution is definitely down, as you see a lot of blurring not only on the characters themselves, but all of the environments you trek through. This is especially apparent in handheld mode, which seems to have a considerably larger blur than docked mode. The game's also got a lot of pop-in. As you're roaming around the planets, especially the first one you start the game in, you'll see lots of little patches of grass and other parts of the environment just kind of appearing as you're walking along. I've also heard that enemies can do this as well, but I personally have not seen that happen. And now let's get to performance. First of all, the load times are pretty lengthy. When you first load up your save data, the load times will definitely be in the 1 to 2 minute range, and when you're just fast traveling around the map, they still lean towards 30 seconds or more. And when it comes to frame rate, it performs fairly smooth for the most part, but when you get into combat, the aiming can get pretty shaky, and melee attacks seem to make the frames drop a lot more than shooting and ranged attacks. And if you want to look on the bright side of these lowered resolution and performance problems, the game does have a good amount of battery life. On the original model, The Outer Worlds has a battery range of 3 hours and 6 minutes up to 4 hours and 4 minutes. On the Nintendo Switch Lite, it has a range of 3 hours and 42 minutes up to 4 hours and 40 minutes. And on the V2 or Redbox 2019 model, it has a range of 4 hours and 50 minutes up to 6 hours and 10 minutes. Now, in conclusion, The Outer Worlds brings the 3D Fallout experience to the handheld world. Now, on the downside, it made a lot of sacrifices and has a lot of poor optimization getting there. But if you're okay with occasional frame drops and the intense blur, it's still an enjoyable shooting RPG experience to take up 20 to 30 hours of your time. Reviews to Go rates The Outer Worlds for the Nintendo Switch a 5 out of 10. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below. Thanks for watching and have a great day.